Anya moved like smoke through the opulent gala, a phantom in a sea of champagne flutes and forced smiles. Her dress, a shimmering emerald number lifted from a Parisian boutique weeks earlier, another successful acquisition, clung to her frame, allowing her to blend seamlessly with the high society attendees. Tonight's target wasn't jewelry or cash, but information specifically, a heavily encrypted list rumored to be in the possession of Mr. Thorne, a man whose wealth was matched only by his shadowy connections. She'd been tracking Thorne for weeks, meticulously mapping his routines, security protocols, and weaknesses. Her team, a motley crew of hackers and infiltrators, had disabled the surveillance cameras in the West Wing, creating a blind spot just long enough for Anya to slip into Thorne's private study. The study was a monument to excess. Mahogany bookshelves lined with first editions, a priceless Persian rug underfoot, and a liquor cabinet filled with bottles older than Anya herself. She bypassed the laser grid protecting Thorne's desk with practiced ease, her nimble fingers dancing across the keypad of his secure laptop. The encryption was sophisticated, but Anya was better. Within minutes, the list materialized, a jumbled mess of names, dates, and alphanumeric codes. She downloaded it onto a secure drive, erased her digital footprint, and vanished back into the party, leaving no trace of her presence. Back at her safe house, a cramped apartment above a bustling noodle shop, Anya reviewed her prize. It was definitely a list, but its purpose remained unclear. The names were unfamiliar, the dates seemingly random. Looks like a shopping list for assassins. Her tech specialist, Ben, quipped, peering over her shoulder. Anya dismissed his comment, attributing the cryptic nature of the data to Thorne's paranoia. She figured she could sell it to one of her usual clients, a rival corporation, a disgruntled politician, maybe even a foreign government. Information was currency, and Anya was always looking to expand her portfolio. She had no idea she'd just stumbled into a viper's nest. No clue that the list wasn't just valuable. It was explosive. It was a ledger of favors, bribes, and black operations that could topple empires and shatter lives. And the men from whom she'd stolen it weren't the type to simply file a police report. They were coming, and they were coming for blood. Anya's skill had gotten her this far, but this time her usual tricks wouldn't be enough. She had stolen the wrong list, from the wrong men, and the consequences were about to catch up to her with a vengeance. The news of the theft reached the directorate before Anya even finished her lukewarm noodles. In a sterile, windowless room beneath the bustling streets of Geneva, 5 figures sat around a polished mahogany table. They were known only by numbers, 1 through 5, and their power extended to the highest echelons of global politics and finance. The list was their Achilles heel, a detailed record of their clandestine operations, and its exposure would be catastrophic. "Thorne is a fool," one stated, his voice a low growl that echoed in the room. "His incompetence is tiresome." 2. A woman with ice-cold eyes and a platinum bob tapped a manicured finger on the table. "The priority is retrieval. The list cannot see the light of day." 3. A hulking man with scars crisscrossing his face simply nodded. "I'll handle it." 3 was the directorate's cleaner, their enforcer, the man they called Silas. He commanded a kill squad of highly trained operatives, each a specialist in their respective field of lethal expertise. They were dispatched immediately. Their mission: retrieve the list and eliminate any trace of its existence, including the thief. Silas reviewed Anya's file. A ghost almost impossible to track. But he had resources she couldn't even imagine. He activated his network, tapping into surveillance systems, hacking databases, and leveraging informants. Within hours, they had a location: the noodle shop. The kill squad moved with precision and brutality. They were ghosts themselves, appearing out of the shadows, their movements silent and deadly. They bypassed the building's security with ease, their training honed by years of covert operations. They didn't bother with subtlety. Their objective was swift and absolute. The first indication Anya had that something was wrong was the sudden silence from Ben. He'd been monitoring the building's security feeds, and his abrupt absence was a blaring alarm. She grabbed her Glock, a cold comfort in the face of the unknown threat. Then the door splintered. Two figures in black tactical gear stormed into the apartment, weapons raised. Anya reacted instantly, diving behind the overturned table, firing blindly. The air filled with the deafening roar of gunfire, the acrid smell of gunpowder. This wasn't a simple robbery. This was an execution. She managed to take down one of the assailants, a lucky shot that found its mark. But the other was relentless, his movements fluid and precise. Anya was outgunned and outmaneuvered. She knew, with chilling certainty, that she was running out of time. The wrong men had found her, and they weren't planning on taking prisoners. They were there to erase her, to bury the list, and to ensure that the Directorate's secrets remained hidden in the shadows. Her only hope was to escape, to find someone, anyone, who could help her survive the night. Anya scrambled through the shattered remains of her apartment, adrenaline coursing through her veins. She vaulted over Ben's lifeless body, a wave of nausea washing over her. There was no time for grief, no time for regret. Only survival. She grabbed her go-bag, a pre-packed emergency kit containing cash, a burner phone, and a few essential tools. She burst out of the back exit, a narrow fire escape overlooking a maze of alleyways. The kill squad wouldn't give up easily. They were professionals, relentless in their pursuit. She needed to disappear, to become a ghost once more. As she navigated the labyrinthine alleys, she heard the unmistakable sound of heavy footsteps behind her. They were still on her trail. She risked a glance over her shoulder and saw one of the remaining operatives, a towering figure silhouetted against the neon glow of the noodle shop sign. He moved with terrifying speed and purpose. Anya ducked into a crowded marketplace, hoping to lose herself in the throng of shoppers and vendors. The air was thick with the smells of spices, street food, and exhaust fumes. She weaved through the stalls, her heart pounding in her chest. Suddenly, she saw them. Two more members of the kill squad, positioned at the far end of the marketplace, effectively cutting off her escape route. They moved with a chilling efficiency, scanning the crowd, their eyes like lasers. Anya realized she was trapped. She ducked behind a fruit stand, her mind racing. She needed a plan, a distraction, anything to buy her some time. Then she saw it. A propane tank connected to a nearby food stall. It was a desperate gamble, but she had no other choice. She grabbed a discarded cigarette lighter from the ground and, with a deep breath, flicked it on. The explosion was deafening. The marketplace erupted in chaos, a cacophony of screams and shattering glass. Anya used the distraction to her advantage, sprinting through the panicked crowd, disappearing into the maze of narrow streets beyond. As she ran, she caught a glimpse of the kill squad operatives amidst the chaos. They were unfazed, their expressions cold and calculating. They were still coming. That was when the true gravity of her situation hit her. This wasn't just a simple theft gone wrong. This was a war. She had stumbled upon something far bigger and more dangerous than she could have ever imagined. These weren't just thugs. They were highly trained, ruthlessly efficient killers. And they wouldn't stop until she was dead and the list was back in their possession. Anya knew with chilling certainty that she was in over her head. She needed help, someone who could protect her, someone who could fight back against these monsters. But who could she trust? And where could she turn? Her options were dwindling, and time was running out. Far removed from the neon-drenched streets and bustling marketplaces, nestled deep within the rugged Appalachian Mountains, was a secluded cabin. Smoke curled lazily from its chimney, a stark contrast to the violence unfolding in the city. This was Marcus's sanctuary, his self-imposed exile. Marcus was a ghost of a different kind. A former Special Forces operative, he'd walked away from a life of duty and bloodshed, haunted by the ghosts of his past. A mission gone wrong, a betrayal by his own government, had left him scarred, both physically and emotionally. He'd lost his team, his faith, and a piece of his soul in the unforgiving sands of Afghanistan. Now he sought solace in solitude. Days were spent chopping wood, hunting for food, and maintaining the perimeter of his property. Nights were filled with restless sleep, plagued by nightmares of the past. He trusted no one, and he valued his privacy above all else. His cabin was a fortress, a testament to his training and paranoia. The windows were reinforced, the doors were steel-plated, and the surrounding woods were laced with tripwires and surveillance cameras. He kept a small arsenal of weapons meticulously cleaned and ready for use. He was prepared for anything, or so he thought. What haunted Marcus most was the lies. The lies he'd been told, the lies he'd been forced to tell, the lies that had led to the deaths of his comrades. He had a visceral aversion to deception, a deep-seated distrust of anyone who wasn't upfront and honest. It was a character flaw, perhaps, but it was also his guiding principle. He lived by a code: protect the innocent, fight for what's right, and never, ever trust a liar. It was a simple code, but it had served him well in the past. One evening, as a storm raged outside, rattling the windows of his cabin, Marcus heard a vehicle approaching. He immediately went on alert, grabbing his rifle and peering out into the darkness. The headlights of a battered SUV cut through the rain, illuminating the muddy track leading to his property. He watched as the vehicle skidded to a halt, and a figure emerged, silhouetted against the headlights. It was a woman, drenched to the bone and clearly distressed. She hesitated for a moment, then started walking towards the cabin, her movements hesitant and uncertain. Marcus didn't recognize her. He had no idea who she was or what she wanted. But he knew one thing: she was trouble. And trouble, he had learned, always came with a price. He gripped his rifle tighter, his senses on high alert. The storm outside was nothing compared to the storm brewing inside him. He had a feeling his peaceful solitude was about to be shattered. Marcus emerged from the cabin, rifle trained on Anya. "State your business," he commanded, his voice a low rumble that echoed in the storm. Anya, shivering and soaked to the bone, raised her hands in a gesture of surrender. "My car broke down," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "I saw your light and thought, maybe you could help." Marcus narrowed his eyes, his gaze piercing. He didn't believe her for a second. Something about her demeanor, the way she avoided eye contact, screamed deception. "There's a town 20 miles that way," he said, gesturing with his rifle. "Why didn't you go there?" I ran out of gas," Anya stammered, adding another layer to her web of lies. She knew she was making a terrible first impression, but she couldn't reveal the truth. Not yet. Not until she could assess him, determine whether he was someone she could trust. Marcus lowered his rifle slightly, but his suspicion remained. "Get inside," he said, gesturing towards the cabin. "You can use the phone, but don't try anything." Inside the cabin, Anya tried to compose herself. The interior was Spartan but functional, reflecting Marcus's pragmatic nature. A wood-burning stove radiated warmth, a welcome contrast to the biting cold outside. "Phone's over there," Marcus said, pointing to a wall-mounted phone in the corner. He watched her closely, his eyes never leaving her. Anya dialed a number, pretending to call a tow truck. "Hello? Yes, my car broke down on Route 12, about 20 miles east of—" "Never mind," she said, hanging up abruptly. No signal. Marcus didn't respond. He knew she was lying, but he wanted to see how far she would take it. "Look," Anya said, turning to face him. "I need your help. There are people after me." "What kind of people?" Marcus asked, his voice devoid of emotion. "Bad people," Anya replied, avoiding specifics. "They want something I have." "What is it?"
Anya hesitated.
"It's complicated." "Complicated usually means lies," Marcus said, his voice hardening. "I don't like lies." Anya knew she was losing him. She needed to tell him something, anything, to gain his trust. But she couldn't reveal the list. Not yet. "I stole something," she confessed, choosing her words carefully. "A valuable object. They want it back." "What kind of object?" Marcus pressed. A diamond," Anya lied, her voice barely a whisper. "A very expensive diamond." Marcus stared at her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then he let out a short, humorless laugh. A diamond? Is that the best you can do? Anya knew she'd failed. She had underestimated him, his ability to see through her deception. She had come to the wrong place, seeking help from the wrong man. Get out, Marcus said, his voice cold and dismissive. I don't help liars. Anya's heart sank. She had nowhere else to go. The kill squad was closing in, and her only hope for survival had just been extinguished. She was alone, exposed, and about to face the consequences of her choices. Anya stood in the doorway, rain plastering her hair to her face. She knew Marcus wasn't going to change his mind. But as she turned to leave, a distant sound reached their ears, the unmistakable whir of a helicopter, growing louder with each passing second. Marcus's eyes narrowed. He knew this area. Helicopters didn't just fly over these mountains unless they had a reason. And that reason, he suspected, was connected to the lying woman in his doorway. He cursed under his breath. He wanted to be left alone, to wallow in his solitude. But something inside him, a dormant sense of duty, wouldn't let him turn her away. He'd seen too much suffering in his life to simply stand by and watch someone be hunted. Get back inside, he growled, grabbing Anya's arm and pulling her back into the cabin. What changed your mind? Anya asked, surprised by his sudden about-face. They're not here for a diamond, Marcus said, his voice grim. Whatever you stole, it's worth more than money, and they're not gonna let you walk away. He moved quickly, securing the doors and windows, arming himself with his rifle. He knew he was walking into a situation he didn't fully understand, but he couldn't shake the feeling that he was doing the right thing. Or maybe, he admitted to himself, a part of him missed the fight. I need the truth, he said, turning to Anya. Now, what did you steal, and who's after you? Anya hesitated for a moment, weighing her options. She knew she couldn't lie to him anymore, not if she wanted his help. It's a list, she said, her voice barely audible above the roar of the helicopter. A list of names, dates. It's information that could bring down some very powerful people. Powerful like who? Marcus pressed. Like governments, Anya said, her voice trembling. Like corporations. Like people you don't want to mess with. Marcus considered her words. He knew the kind of people she was talking about. He'd tangled with them before, and it had cost him everything. But he also knew that sometimes, the only way to fight darkness was to step into it. The helicopter circled overhead, its spotlight cutting through the trees, searching for them. The kill squad was close. All right, Marcus said, his voice firm. I'll help you. But you listen to me. You do exactly what I say. And no more lies. Understood. Anya nodded, relief washing over her. Understood. Marcus grabbed a backpack, stuffing it with ammunition, medical supplies, and a map of the surrounding area. He knew they couldn't stay in the cabin. They had to move, to disappear back into the mountains. He looked at Anya, his expression unreadable. He didn't trust her, not completely. But he knew she was in danger, and he wasn't going to let her face it alone. He had a feeling this was going to be a long night, and a very bloody one. He didn't like liars, but he loved a good fight even more. And this, he suspected, was going to be one hell of a fight. Before they could escape, the kill squad descended. The helicopter landed in a clearing a few hundred yards from the cabin, and 4 figures in black tactical gear emerged, weapons drawn. Silas, the squad leader, barked orders into his comms, his voice cold and efficient. Breach and clear. Retrieve the asset. Eliminate all threats. Marcus knew they were out of time. He positioned Anya near the back of the cabin, instructing her to stay low and quiet. If they get past me, run, he said, his voice grim. Head for the river. Follow it downstream. Don't stop for anything. He took up a position by the front door, his rifle ready. He could hear the kill squad approaching, their footsteps crunching on the gravel path. He took a deep breath, steeling himself for the fight. The first shot shattered the window beside him. He ducked, returning fire, the roar of his rifle echoing in the confined space. The kill squad returned fire, peppering the cabin with bullets. Marcus moved with practiced ease, using the cabin's layout to his advantage. He knew every inch of the place, every creak in the floorboards, every blind spot. He used the furniture as cover, firing short, controlled bursts, taking down one of the operatives with a well-aimed shot to the head. Anya, despite her fear, wasn't entirely helpless. She grabbed a hunting knife from the kitchen drawer and positioned herself near the back door, ready to defend herself if necessary. One of the kill squad members attempted to flank Marcus, circling around to the back of the cabin. Anya saw him coming and, without hesitation, threw the knife. It struck him in the shoulder, momentarily slowing him down. Marcus seized the opportunity, bursting out of the front door and engaging the remaining operatives in a close-quarters firefight. He moved with a speed and ferocity that belied his age, his years of training kicking in. He disarmed one of the operatives, using his own weapon against him, and then engaged in hand-to-hand combat with the last remaining member of the squad. Anya watched in awe and horror as Marcus fought, his movements brutal and efficient. He was a whirlwind of violence, a force of nature unleashed. She realized then that she wasn't just relying on a recluse. She was relying on a trained killer. The fight was brutal and short. Marcus emerged victorious, but not unscathed. He had taken a bullet to the arm, and his face was covered in blood and bruises. "We need to move," he said, his voice strained. "They'll send more." Anya helped him bandage his arm, her hands trembling. "Thank you," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "You saved my life." "Don't thank me yet," Marcus said, his expression grim. "This is just the beginning." They gathered their gear and slipped out of the cabin, disappearing into the storm-swept mountains. They had survived the first encounter, but they knew the kill squad would be back. And next time, they wouldn't be so lucky. They needed to find a safe place, a place where they could regroup and plan their next move. And they needed to do it fast. Their survival depended on it. As they trudged through the rain-soaked forest, Marcus's mind drifted back to Kandahar, to the mission that had shattered his life. Flashes of memory, sharp and vivid, assaulted him like shrapnel. Flashback sequence. The sun beat down mercilessly on the dusty Afghan landscape. Marcus, then a young captain, led his team through a narrow mountain pass. Their mission: extract a high-value target, a local informant who possessed vital information about a terrorist network. They reached the village, a cluster of mud huts huddled together for protection. The informant was waiting for them, a nervous man with haunted eyes. He handed Marcus a USB drive containing the information they needed. "This will expose them all," the informant said, his voice trembling. "But be careful. They know I betrayed them. They will be coming." As they prepared to leave, a figure emerged from the shadows, a man in a crisp uniform, a representative from a shadowy government agency. He introduced himself as Agent Davies. "We'll take it from here, Captain," Davies said, his voice smooth and authoritative. "We'll ensure the informant's safety and deliver the information to the appropriate channels." Marcus hesitated. He didn't trust Davies. There was something about him, a coldness in his eyes, that made Marcus uneasy. But he had his orders. He handed over the USB drive and reluctantly relinquished control of the mission. That night, their base was attacked. A coordinated assault by a large force of insurgents. Marcus and his team fought bravely, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. As the battle raged, Marcus saw Davies slip away, leaving them to fend for themselves. He realized then that they had been betrayed. Davies had known about the attack. He had deliberately left them vulnerable. The battle was a bloodbath. Marcus watched helplessly as his teammates fell, one by one. He tried to rally them to organize a defense, but it was too late. They were surrounded, trapped, and left to die. In the end, only Marcus survived. He was rescued by a passing patrol, but the damage was done. He had lost his team, his friends, his brothers, and he knew that their deaths were the result of a lie, a betrayal by his own government. End flashback sequence. Anya noticed Marcus's distant gaze, the pain etched on his face. She didn't know what he was thinking about, but she could sense that it was something terrible. "Are you all right?" she asked, her voice soft. Marcus shook his head, snapping himself out of the flashback. "Just memories," he said, his voice gruff. "Things I'd rather forget." He didn't elaborate. He wasn't ready to share his past with her. Not yet. But the memory of the betrayal, the lies that had led to the deaths of his team, fueled his determination to protect Anya. He wouldn't let her become another victim of deception. He wouldn't let the people on that list get away with their crimes. He would fight for her, even if it meant confronting his own demons. The past was a burden, but it was also a motivation. He would use his pain to fuel his fight, to ensure that justice was served. They found temporary shelter in an abandoned ranger station, a dilapidated building nestled deep within the forest. Marcus tended to his wound, his movements precise and efficient. Anya watched him, a mixture of gratitude and apprehension in her eyes. "Why did you lie to me?" Marcus asked, his voice flat, as he cleaned the blood from his arm. Anya hesitated. "I didn't know you," she said, her voice defensive. "I didn't know if I could trust you." "You still don't trust me," Marcus said, his gaze unwavering. "You're still holding something back."
On side.
She knew he was right. She had been selective with the truth, revealing only what she thought he needed to know. But she also knew that if she wanted his continued help, she had to be completely honest with him. "The list," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "It's not just names and dates. It's evidence. Evidence of corruption, bribery, murder. It implicates some very powerful people in some very terrible things." "What kind of things?" Marcus pressed. Anya took a deep breath. "Black ops, assassinations, illegal arms deals, human trafficking, everything you can imagine and worse." Marcus's expression hardened. He had suspected as much. The kind of people who would send a kill squad after a stolen list weren't playing games. They were protecting something far more valuable than money. "And who are these people?" he asked, his voice low and dangerous. "They call themselves the Directorate," Anya said. "They're a shadow organization that operates above the law. They control governments, manipulate markets, and orchestrate events to their own advantage." Marcus nodded slowly. He had heard whispers of such an organization before, rumors of a cabal of powerful individuals who controlled the world from behind the scenes. He had dismissed them as conspiracy theories, but now, staring into Anya's terrified eyes, he knew they were real. "And what exactly does this list contain?" Marcus asked. "What makes it so dangerous to them?" Anya reached into her backpack and pulled out the secure drive containing the list. She hesitated for a moment, then handed it to Marcus. "It's all there," she said. "The names, the dates, the details. Everything they've been trying to keep hidden for years." Marcus took the drive and plugged it into a laptop he had retrieved from the ranger station. He started to scroll through the files, his eyes widening with each passing line. He saw names he recognized, politicians, CEOs, military leaders. He saw dates and locations that corresponded to major events in recent history. He saw evidence of unimaginable corruption and brutality. He stopped scrolling, his face grim. "This is unbelievable," he said, his voice barely audible. "I know," Anya said. "That's why they want it back. That's why they're trying to kill me." Marcus looked at Anya, his expression a mixture of anger and disbelief. He was angry at her for lying to him, for dragging him into this mess. But he was also beginning to understand the gravity of the situation, the danger they were both in. "You should have told me the truth from the beginning," he said, his voice laced with accusation. "This is bigger than both of us. This is a war." "I know," Anya said, her voice contrite. "I'm sorry. I was scared. I didn't know who to trust." Marcus stared at her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then he sighed. "It doesn't matter now," he said. "What matters is what we do next. We have to get this list to the right people. We have to expose the Directorate. He knew it wouldn't be easy. They were facing a powerful and ruthless enemy, an enemy that would stop at nothing to protect its secrets. But he also knew that he couldn't back down. He had come too far. He had seen too much. He had to fight for what was right, even if it meant risking his life. He picked up his rifle, his expression determined. "Let's get to work," he said. "We have a war to win." Marcus stared at the laptop screen, the weight of the information pressing down on him. He could walk away. He could leave Anya to fend for herself. He could return to his solitude, his self-imposed exile. It would be the smart thing to do, the safe thing to do. He had already lost so much. He didn't want to risk losing anything more. He didn't want to get dragged back into the world of violence and betrayal that he had tried so hard to escape. But he couldn't. He couldn't turn his back on Anya. He couldn't let the directorate continue to operate with impunity. He had seen firsthand the damage they could inflict, the lives they could destroy. He couldn't allow them to silence Anya, to bury the truth. His sense of justice, dormant for so long, had been awakened. He knew that what Anya had done was wrong, that she had lied and deceived him, but he also knew that she had stumbled upon something that could change the world. And he couldn't let that opportunity pass. He closed the laptop, his decision made. He would help Anya expose the directorate no matter the cost. He would fight for what was right, even if it meant risking his life. "We need a plan," he said, his voice firm. "We can't just run and hide. They'll find us eventually. We need to find a way to get this information to the right people, people who can do something about it." "Who do you have in mind?" Anya asked, her voice hopeful. Marcus thought for a moment. He had cut ties with most of his old contacts, but there was one person he still trusted, a former colleague from his Special Forces days, a woman named Sarah. She was now a journalist, an investigative reporter with a reputation for uncovering corruption and exposing wrongdoing. "I know someone," Marcus said. "A reporter. She's tough, she's smart, and she's not afraid to take on powerful enemies. Can we trust her?" Anya asked, her voice cautious. "Yes," Marcus said. "I trust her with my life." He knew that contacting Sarah was a risk. It would expose them to even greater danger. But it was also their best chance of getting the list into the right hands. "We need to get to her," Marcus said. "She's in Washington, D.C. "That's a long way from here," Anya said, her voice apprehensive. "I know," Marcus said. "But we don't have a choice. It's the only way." He started to pack their gear, his movements quick and efficient. He knew they couldn't stay in the ranger station any longer. The kill squad would be back, and they wouldn't make the same mistake twice. As they prepared to leave, Marcus looked at Anya, his expression serious. "This is going to be dangerous," he said. "They're not going to give up easily. Are you sure you're ready for this?" Anya met his gaze, her eyes filled with determination. "I started this," she said. "I have to finish it. I'm not going to let them win." Marcus nodded, a hint of a smile playing on his lips. He still didn't fully trust her, but he respected her courage. He had a feeling this was going to be a long and difficult journey. But he was ready. He was ready to fight for what was right. He was ready to take on the directorate. His sense of justice had overridden his distrust. He was all in. Their journey to Washington, D.C. was a gauntlet of close calls and near misses. Marcus, ever vigilant, chose a circuitous route, avoiding major highways and sticking to back roads and rural areas. Anya, using her skills as an information broker, gathered intelligence, trying to anticipate the kill squad's movements. They stole a beat-up pickup truck from a farm, leaving behind a wad of cash and a note of apology. They slept in abandoned motels, ate stale gas station snacks, and constantly looked over their shoulders. The kill squad was always a step behind, a persistent shadow that refused to disappear. In a small town in West Virginia, they were ambushed at a diner. Marcus spotted the approaching vehicles just in time, and they managed to escape through the back door, leaving behind half-eaten plates of greasy food and bewildered patrons. They ditched the pickup truck and hitched a ride on a freight train, hiding among stacks of shipping containers. The train rumbled through the night, carrying them closer to their destination, but also closer to danger. At a truck stop in Pennsylvania, Anya tried to use a payphone to contact Sarah, but the line was dead. They suspected the directorate had tapped her phone, making it impossible to reach her directly. Marcus decided to try a different approach. He used his knowledge of covert communication to send a coded message to Sarah through a secure online forum, a forum used by journalists and activists to share sensitive information. He knew it was a long shot, but it was their only hope of reaching her without alerting the directorate. The kill squad continued to hound them, their pursuit relentless. They narrowly avoided capture at a roadblock, weaving through the maze of parked cars and disappearing into the darkness. They were forced to abandon their supplies, including Marcus's rifle, leaving them even more vulnerable. Anya, despite her fear, was learning to adapt to their new life on the run. She was becoming more resourceful, more resilient, more like Marcus. She learned how to hotwire cars, how to pick locks, how to use a knife for self-defense. She was no longer just an information broker. She was a survivor. Marcus, in turn, was beginning to see Anya in a new light. He respected her courage, her intelligence, and her determination. He still didn't fully trust her, but he knew that she was someone he could rely on. As they continued their journey, they started to understand the true scope of the directorate's power. They had eyes and ears everywhere. They could control events, manipulate people, and eliminate anyone who stood in their way. Exposing them would be a monumental task, a David versus Goliath battle against a seemingly insurmountable foe. But they were determined to try. They had come too far to turn back now. Their survival and the future of countless others depended on it. The series of smaller encounters made them both stronger and more determined. In a desolate stretch of highway in Maryland, they ran out of gas. They were miles from the nearest town, and their only option was to walk. Marcus, still recovering from his injury, was slowing down, and Anya could see the frustration building in his eyes. "Let me try something," she said, surprising him. She pulled out her lock-picking kit, a collection of slim tools she had acquired over the years. She approached a nearby gas station, a dilapidated building that looked like it hadn't been open in years. Marcus watched her, skeptical. He had always relied on brute force and military tactics. He didn't understand Anya's subtle skills, her ability to manipulate systems and exploit vulnerabilities. Anya worked quickly and quietly, her fingers dancing across the lock of the gas station door. Within minutes, she had it open. "Impressive," Marcus said, a hint of admiration in his voice. Inside the gas station, Anya bypassed the alarm system with ease, disabling the sensors and cameras. She located the gas pump controls and rigged it to dispense fuel. "I used to do this all the time," she said, a hint of pride in her voice. "Before I started working with information, I was a thief. A damn good one." Marcus watched her as she filled their gas can, her movements confident and assured. He realized that Anya wasn't just a damsel in distress. She was a survivor, a resourceful and skilled individual who was more than capable of taking care of herself. As they drove away, Anya used her knowledge of black market contacts to locate a safe house, a secluded cabin owned by a former associate. It was a risky move, but they needed a place to rest and regroup. The safe house was a haven, a temporary sanctuary from the relentless pursuit of the kill squad. They cleaned up, ate a hot meal, and slept for a few hours, the first restful sleep they had had in days. Anya's resourcefulness didn't stop there. She used her hacking skills to access the directorate's communication network, intercepting their messages and gathering intelligence about their plans. She discovered that Silas, the kill squad leader, was obsessed with capturing her personally. He saw her as a challenge, a trophy to be won. Anya used this information to her advantage, setting a trap for Silas, luring him into a confrontation on her terms. She knew she couldn't beat him in a straight fight, but she could use her intelligence and cunning to outsmart him. Marcus watched Anya as she planned their counterattack, her eyes gleaming with determination. He realized that he had underestimated her. She was more than just a thief and a liar. She was a warrior, a force to be reckoned with. He felt a growing respect for her, a respect that was slowly turning into something more. He was still wary of her past, but he was beginning to see the person she was now, the person she was fighting to become. She was proving herself time and again, and with each demonstration of her skills, Marcus found his trust in her growing. And maybe, just maybe, something else was growing too. Silas wasn't just a kill squad leader. He was a predator, a hunter who relished the chase. Anya had become his obsession, a personal challenge that transcended his orders from the directorate. He saw her as a worthy adversary, a rare individual who dared to defy them. Through the intercepted communications, Anya learned more about Silas's background. He was a former Special Forces operative, handpicked by the directorate for his exceptional skills and his unwavering loyalty. He was a master of disguise, a weapons expert, and a ruthless killer. He had a reputation for never failing, for always completing his mission, no matter the cost. But what Anya found most disturbing was Silas's psychological profile. He enjoyed the hunt, the thrill of the chase, the feeling of control over his victims. He saw himself as an artist, and his killings were his masterpieces. He collected trophies from his victims, small objects that he kept as reminders of his conquests. Anya also discovered that Silas had a personal connection to the directorate. His father had been a high-ranking member of the organization, a man who had instilled in him a deep sense of loyalty and obedience. When his father was killed in a power struggle, Silas vowed to avenge his death and to protect the directorate at all costs. This personal connection made Silas even more dangerous. He wasn't just following orders. He was fighting for his family, for his legacy. He saw Anya as a threat to everything he held dear, and he was determined to eliminate her. Marcus, after reviewing the information Anya had gathered, realized that Silas was not to be underestimated. He was a formidable opponent, a highly trained and ruthlessly efficient killer. He was also driven by a personal vendetta, making him even more unpredictable and dangerous. "We need to be careful," Marcus said, his voice grim. "This guy isn't just doing a job. He's got something personal invested in this." "I know," Anya said, her voice apprehensive. "That's what scares me." They knew that Silas wouldn't give up easily. He would continue to hunt them, to stalk them, to try to trap them. They had to be prepared for anything. They had to be ready to fight for their lives. Anya decided to use Silas's obsession against him. She sent him a taunting message, a coded challenge that she knew would pique his interest. She baited him, daring him to come and get her. Silas, as expected, took the bait. He responded with a message of his own, a chilling threat that made Anya's blood run cold. He promised to make her death slow and painful, a masterpiece that would be remembered for years to come. Anya knew she was playing a dangerous game. She was poking the bear, provoking a ruthless killer. But she also knew that she had no other choice. She had to confront Silas, to stop him before he could hurt anyone else. The conflict had become intensely personal. She also knew it would be the final showdown. Reaching the outskirts of Washington, D.C., Marcus knew they couldn't simply walk up to Sarah's apartment. The directorate's reach extended even into the nation's capital. They needed a safe way to contact her, a way to verify her loyalty and ensure that she hadn't been compromised. Marcus remembered a name from his past, a shadowy figure known only as the Weaver. The Weaver was a master of information, a broker of secrets, a man who knew everyone and everything in the D.C. underworld. He was also a former contact of Marcus, someone who owed him a favor. Finding the Weaver wouldn't be easy. He operated in the shadows, moving from place to place, never staying in one location for too long. But Marcus knew his methods, his habits, his secret codes. Using Anya's hacking skills, they located the Weaver's current hideout, a rundown bar in a seedy part of town. The bar was a haven for criminals, informants, and other denizens of the underworld. It was a dangerous place, but it was also their only hope. Marcus and Anya entered the bar, their senses on high alert. The air was thick with smoke and the smell of cheap alcohol. They scanned the room, searching for the Weaver. Anya recognized him first, a wizened old man sitting in a corner booth, surrounded by a group of shady characters. He was dressed in a threadbare suit, his face etched with wrinkles and experience. Marcus approached the booth, his movements cautious. "Weaver," he said, his voice low. "It's been a long time." The Weaver looked up, his eyes narrowing. He recognized Marcus instantly. "Marcus," he said, a hint of surprise in his voice. "What brings you to my humble abode?" "I need your help," Marcus said. "I need to contact someone who can expose the Directorate." The Weaver raised an eyebrow. "The Directorate? You're playing with fire, my friend." "I know," Marcus said, "but it's important. Lives are at stake." The Weaver hesitated. He knew that helping Marcus would put him at risk. The Directorate was not an enemy to be taken lightly. But he also owed Marcus a debt that he couldn't ignore. "What do you need me to do?" he asked. "I need you to contact Sarah," Marcus said. "I need you to verify that she's still trustworthy and that she hasn't been compromised." The Weaver nodded slowly. "I can do that," he said. "But it will cost you." "Name your price," Marcus said. The Weaver smiled, a glint of greed in his eyes. "I need a favor," he said. "A favor that only you can provide." Marcus hesitated. He knew that the Weaver's favors always came with a high price. But he had no other choice. He had to trust him. "What is it?" Marcus asked. The Weaver leaned in close, his voice barely a whisper. "I need you to retrieve something for me," he said. "Something that the Directorate has stolen from me. Something that is very valuable." Marcus and Anya exchanged glances. They knew they were walking into a dangerous situation. But they also knew that they needed the Weaver's help. "We'll do it," Marcus said. "But you have to promise me that you'll contact Sarah and that you'll help us expose the Directorate." The Weaver smiled, his eyes gleaming. "I promise," he said. "But first you have to prove that you can be trusted. You have to retrieve my stolen item. The trust would have to be earned." The Weaver's stolen item was a data chip containing sensitive information about the Directorate's operations in Washington, D.C. It was being held in a secure vault beneath a heavily guarded office building. Retrieving it would be a suicide mission. Marcus and Anya spent hours planning their attack, studying the building's blueprints, analyzing the security systems, and identifying potential weaknesses. They knew they couldn't go in guns blazing. They needed a more subtle approach, a strategic plan that would minimize the risk of detection. Anya used her hacking skills to disable the building's surveillance cameras and alarm systems, creating a blind spot for them to exploit. Marcus used his knowledge of covert operations to devise a plan that involved infiltrating the building disguised as maintenance workers. They infiltrated the building, their movements precise and coordinated. They bypassed the security guards with ease, their disguises convincing. They navigated the labyrinthine corridors, avoiding detection. Reaching the vault, they encountered their first real obstacle, a high-tech security door protected by a complex biometric scanner. Anya, using her lock-picking skills and her knowledge of computer programming, managed to bypass the scanner, opening the door. Inside the vault, they found the data chip along with a cache of other valuable items. They grabbed the chip and prepared to leave, but as they turned to go, they were confronted by Silas and his kill squad. Silas smiled, his eyes gleaming with triumph. "I knew you couldn't resist," he said. "You're predictable, Anya. You always were." Marcus and Anya were trapped. They were outnumbered and outgunned. But they weren't about to give up without a fight. The final confrontation began. Marcus and Anya fought back, utilizing their combined skills and strategies. Marcus used his military training to engage the kill squad in a firefight, his movements precise and deadly. Anya used her hacking skills to disable their weapons and create distractions. The battle raged through the vault, the air filled with the deafening roar of gunfire and the acrid smell of gunpowder. Marcus and Anya fought back to back, protecting each other, their movements perfectly synchronized. Anya managed to take down several members of the kill squad, using her cunning and resourcefulness to outsmart them. Marcus engaged Silas in a hand-to-hand combat, their bodies slamming against the walls of the vault. The fight was brutal and intense. Marcus was injured, but he refused to give up. He knew that if he fell, Anya would be next. Finally, after a grueling battle, Marcus managed to gain the upper hand. He disarmed Silas, pinning him to the ground. "It's over, Silas," Marcus said, his voice strained. "It's time to surrender." Silas laughed, a chilling sound that echoed through the vault. "It's never over," he said. "The Directorate will never be defeated." With a final surge of strength, Silas broke free from Marcus's grasp. He pulled out a hidden knife and lunged at Anya. Marcus reacted instantly, throwing himself in front of Anya, taking the brunt of the attack. The knife pierced his chest, drawing a gasp of pain. Anya watched in horror as Marcus collapsed to the ground, his blood pouring across the floor. Silas, momentarily stunned by Marcus's sacrifice, hesitated. Anya seized the opportunity, grabbing a discarded weapon and firing a single, well-aimed shot that struck Silas in the head, killing him instantly. The remaining members of the kill squad, demoralized by the loss of their leader, surrendered. Anya, her hands trembling, secured them and called for help. As the authorities arrived, sirens wailing, Anya turned her attention to Marcus. She cradled him in her arms, tears streaming down her face. "Stay with me, Marcus," she pleaded. "Please don't leave me." Marcus coughed, blood trickling from his lips. I told you, I hate liars," he whispered, his voice weak. "I know," Anya sobbed.
I'm sorry.
"I'll never lie again." Marcus smiled faintly. "Good, because you're not so bad for a thief." His eyes fluttered closed, and his body went limp. Marcus was gone. Anya, heartbroken and devastated, knew that she had to finish what they had started. She had to expose the Directorate, to bring them to justice for their crimes. She handed over the data chip to the authorities, along with the stolen list. She told them everything, revealing the Directorate's secrets, their crimes, their network of corruption. Sarah, contacted by the Weaver, arrived at the scene, her face etched with concern. Anya handed her the list, entrusting her with the responsibility of exposing the Directorate to the world. Sarah, true to her word, published the list, along with a series of damning articles that revealed the Directorate's crimes in graphic detail. The world erupted. Sarah's articles sparked outrage, protests, and investigations. Governments toppled, corporations crumbled, and the carefully constructed facade of the Directorate shattered. The organization, once untouchable, was exposed for what it truly was: a cabal of criminals and power brokers who had manipulated the world for their own gain. Many members of the Directorate were arrested and prosecuted, their crimes finally brought to light. The organization, though weakened, was not entirely destroyed. Its tentacles still reached into the shadows, its influence still lingered in the halls of power. But the world had changed. The truth had been revealed, and the seeds of change had been planted. Anya, racked with grief and guilt, struggled to cope with Marcus's death. She blamed herself for everything that had happened, for dragging him into this mess, for leading him to his doom. She spent months in hiding, haunted by nightmares and tormented by regret. She considered returning to her old life, to her world of deception and intrigue. But she knew she couldn't. She had been changed by her experience, transformed by Marcus's sacrifice. She decided to use her skills for good, to fight for justice and expose corruption. She became a whistleblower, a champion of the oppressed, a thorn in the side of the powerful. She worked with Sarah, providing her with information, helping her uncover wrongdoing. She used her hacking skills to expose corrupt politicians, corporate criminals, and human rights abusers. She never forgot Marcus. His memory fueled her determination. His sacrifice inspired her courage. She knew that he would have wanted her to keep fighting, to keep exposing the truth. One day, years after the events in Washington, D.C., Anya received a package. It was a small wooden box, addressed to her in Marcus's handwriting. Inside the box, she found a single object, a compass. It was an old-fashioned compass, the kind that pointed true north no matter what. Anya held the compass in her hand, Tears.